Joined here by Portland Timbers head coach Phil Neville. We're just going to open it up to questions.
After this 2-week break, now being back at home for the first time in a month, just how are the players planning on feeding off the energy from the crowd this weekend?
Well, I think this morning was the first time in 2 weeks that I felt some buzz back in the air. You know, the international break, I think we spoke about the other day, is always a period of, you know, getting the boys in, doing what we have to do, and then getting some mental time, mental relaxed time. Today, everyone's back in the building. The internationals are back. All of a sudden, you start smelling the game on Saturday. And we'd been on the road for the previous 2 games and the tougher road trips, and we got some decent results out of them. And I think we're under no illusions now in terms of the importance of Saturday's game, particularly going in front of our own supporters. And I think what I would say is that we as a group need to be at our best, and we need to now have that extra person in the crowd now to get behind the team, to make sure it's a fortress, to make sure it's hostile, and to make sure that we get the 3 points.
What's it like for you, just as a coach, to have 2 weeks to prepare for one match? Like, is there any risk of like overanalyzing things just because you have so much time to do so, or how did you kind of use your time during the break?
Yeah, well, the first part of the international break, to be fair, I wasn't that well. I think there's a bit of a bug going around, so it was about recovering, getting some energy back, and then. I always think as a manager in the international breaks, you in the first week in particular, you've got to let your other coaches take the sessions. You've got to have a different voice. You've got to make it. You've got to find other ways, imaginative ways of getting the best out of your team. Because when you've got no game at the end of the week, it's tough. So we had some really nice moments. We took them go-karting, which was fun. Some horrendous drivers in our group, I've got to say, horrendous. They shouldn't be allowed on the road. We just have to. We tried imaginative ways to keep the energy in the group, because we're now into September. We're you know, in terms of a marathon, you're in the last. So you're at 20 miles and you've got 6 miles to go, and this is the hardest bit now. So this week we've ramped it back up again. We've started to think about Red Bulls from the start of this week. And as the international players have been drip feeding back in, we've started to sort of like concentrate more on the team tactics and the team shape.
Eric Choupo-Moting and Forsberg have combined for well over half of New York's goal contributions this year. Yeah. What makes that link so special, and Forsberg in particular kind of being that number 10, a position in which you've called the most important in MLS? He's been kind of their talisman over the last 2 years. What does he do differently than your average number 10?
Well, he produces goals. I think that's he's without doubt a quality player. So is Choupo-Moting. They've scored at the highest levels, and so they're 2 big players for them. I thought they were 2 really good signings for them. I think when you look at Forsberg, since he's come into the league, first season they got to an MLS Cup final. I think that's what you look at in terms of DPs in this league. Can your DP get you to the top 4, an MLS Cup final, a deep playoff run, and I think that's the difference between most teams in this league. We have a cap system where most teams are pretty balanced, most rosters are pretty balanced, and the top end of the roster is where you win or lose games, I feel, and I say that is that DPs win you things in this league. And I say when I look at now our roster, we've got some fantastic high-end players. And now those high-end players need to come to the party, and now they need to deliver.
Phil, at this point in the season, is there anything different about chasing a playoff spot as opposed to chasing a table? Right? So like in England, the top team goes through, there's continental football, and then here there are essentially 2 tables parallel to each other, the East and the West, and then you're looking for 1 through 7 or 8 and 9.
I think the biggest difference is that I suppose in England I played for a club and a team and a manager that anything below 1 was failure. So if you finished second, there was no celebration. I know nowadays when you look at sort of like teams around the world, when they finish in that top 4 Champions League place, they do laps of honours. That would have never been heard of in my day as a Manchester United player. If you didn't finish first, you'd failed. And so coming to the MLS, what I think is really good is that if you're not in first place, you've still got a massive part of the season to play for, to fight for, to keep going. player, teams down in 10th, 11th are now thinking, can we get into those playoff positions, whether it's the playing game or the playoff positions. So the season is more stretched out, and I think when you look at the next 6 games, you'd say that I actually thought the last 3 games were playoff type games. The playoff type feelings, playoff type quality, playoff type atmospheres, and I'd say that the next 6 games are going to be like that. We're playing every team in and around us. They're going to be really good games. You speak to most people in and around the city, and there's somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, Saturday's a must-win game. Our season's on the line." And I'm saying, well, it's going to be like that for the next 6 games. Enjoy the ride, enjoy the fun, enjoy the expectation. Because I think this is where, when you're at the start of the season, I think you're always thinking, right, where are we going to be at this time of the season? Where are we going to be in the table? And what's our feeling going to be like? And I think we've put ourselves in a great position. Now I think I want my team to grab that opportunity in front of them, because there's an opportunity there to do something really special. And we've got to grab that. And if we don't, I think we'll all be left disappointed and flat.
Throughout your time here, you've routinely spoken about how even when things are going pretty well, you want them to always be better. Despite 2 really good defensive showings in the past 2 games, just what has the defensive work continued to look like? And how has the team continued to improve defensively throughout this year?
Well, I think we've become a really good defensive team, that's for sure. I think the feeling after the last 2 games has been one of real disappointment, and I think that shows probably our expectation, or my expectation is that we drew in San Diego and thought the game was there to be won. We drew in Minnesota, and that game was definitely there to be won. So I think we've come out of those 2 games thinking that maybe we should have 2 points more. Maybe we should have took 4 points out of the 2 games. Maybe winning both games was probably a little bit of a stretch. But I think the way that we played in both games, I think we deserve probably a few more points out of those games. So I think I go back to the structure that we've had for even since the Leagues Cup. You think about the clean sheets. I think it's 4 in 8 games, something like that. The structure since the Leagues Cup has been one of, we're going to be really solid, really hard to beat. I do feel in the next 6 games we're going to have to maintain that structure, but release a little bit of the. I think we're going to go for it. I think if my mentality has always been, if you're going to die, you're going to die trying, and we're going to go for it in these next 6 games, whether it's at home or away, from a really good structure. And I think we've got a really good foundation. Now what we need to do is give those attacking players the freedom to go and express themselves, the freedom to go and win a game 3-4-0. Because I think that's what we'll need to do.
All right, we're going to wrap it there. Thank you, Phil.
Wonderful.